Here we are on the unit on international economic factors. You're going to see it's a pretty short unit, but I did want to make sure it was separate because it's important enough in its own right, and the material is a bit weird, so I did want to make sure it was separate from the others. But first we're going to talk about the strong and weak dollar. This chart is how I think everyone should try and remember it and try and focus on it to deal with it. To remember this chart, remember, you're studying for the SIE, right? Not the SEI. We're going with the SIE is what we're studying for. So it's not the SIE here. It's the SEI. Dollars, exports, imports. When the dollar goes up, exports become less competitive. Imports become more competitive. When the dollar goes down, exports become more competitive. Imports become less competitive. I refer to these questions as the mirror game. The idea, if you think you've ever stood between two mirrors and you're looking down and you're seeing an infinite number of yourselves, and you lift a hand and you're sort of trying to see how many you see, and there's infinite numbers as you keep going. But what you're trying to do in this situation is you're trying to count a certain number back and see which hand is sort of being held up, the left or the right, depending on which number reflection it is. The problem with these is if you're off by one, if you're a little bit confused by the question, and they can get very confusing, you're going to miscount and you're going to be off on it. You want to make sure you remember this chart. That's going to make the questions basically worst case 50-50, but they are tricky. You are going to want to write these down, this chart down, to help you figure them out. The thing that helps as well when you're dealing with currencies is that currencies do not move in a vacuum. IBM could gain $50 and nothing else moved in the market. Something could lose $50 and nothing else moved in the market that day. Unlikely, but it could happen. It can't happen in currency. For the dollar to go up, that means others went down. So if the question is talking about the euro going up, that means the dollar went down. So you can sort of bring them back all to the same currency so you can make sure you can use this chart well. Also remember that a foreign exporter of French wine, French exporter, is going to be dealing with a U.S. importer of French wine. Just like a U.S. exporter of Ford cars is going to be dealing with some French importer of American cars. So they're reflected in that way, which is why, as I say, I think of it as the mirror game. Practice makes perfect with these. In economic news, the dollar was down today against the euro, franc, shekel, round salt, wheel, rye stone, multicolored trading beads, and chocolate coins. The U.S. balance of payments. This is the record of all economic transactions between the residents of the U.S. and of the world in a particular period, usually quarter, 3 months, or a full year, 12 months. Now, there are balance of payments where it's negative. That means there's a trade deficit. That means more money is going out than coming in. But more materials are coming in than going out. That means we're getting cheaper materials to have a better life for our citizens. More stuff, less money. The other side is the balance of payments being positive or a trade surplus. More money coming in than going out, but less materials coming in and more going out. The producer of the world, not necessarily benefiting from their own production ability. More money, less stuff. The trade deficit is more stuff and less money. Everyone watching this must have seen enough of the news over the past 20 years to recognize that if we're talking about actual trade deficits and surplus, the U.S. has a trade deficit with China. China has a massive trade surplus with the United States. What does that mean? It's not necessarily good or bad. What that means, we might have less money, but we've got cheaper stuff. China might have more money, but the citizens can't buy anything because they don't have anything to buy. They're making stuff and just sending it away. They don't have it. It's not staying in China. It's coming here. They're not keeping the iPhones. They're making them for us. So there's benefits and consequences with any of these. It just has to make sure it's in a proper balance. As I said, this was a short unit. That brings us to the end of this unit. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you can see why having this separate was probably beneficial, even if it is a very short video. I will see you again shortly. Hope you enjoyed this.